I put up a video last year where some people obviously had difficulty believing the Bay Run has separate cycling and pedestrian paths. Well, you shouldn't believe everything you read on Wikipedia. I know it says it's got separate facilities for cyclists and pedestrians, but let's go and have a look for ourselves. I mean, geez, there's only signs all around the place saying it's a cycle route, and there's separate cycle and pedestrian things. So let's just have a look at the 30 or so symbols stenciled along the path on just the Canada Bay section of the path, and they're about every 100 metres. Now, yeah, they're a bit faded and they're different sizes, etc., but I think you get the drift that the path on the left around here is the cycle path, and the path closest to the bay is the pedestrian path. And this is where the incident happened, with pedestrians walking on the path, and you can see a fairly dense collection of symbols along here. Are you sick of this yet? Have you kind of understood by now that this is a path, which is just one path, but it's got a line down the middle, and one side is pedestrians and one side is cyclists? And if you don't believe me, well, let's ride round at speed and have a look for ourselves. And I'm going to show you here in 9 minutes the entire lap, the 7-kilometre loop. So here you can see they've even put trees and grass down the middle between the two paths, cyclists on the outside next to the road and pedestrians over there next to the bay, and there goes a pack of mum wielding prams. Now, this does change a bit depending on how much land the council had available at the time when they were building the path. So in some places it's well separated and in others it's squished together, but that's just a factor of topography. So we come around here and look, shrubbery down the middle, and it's even different colours in that section. They've made the pedestrian path pink, and as you can see as we go around here, the symbols are on the ground, and I know you can't see the signs as we go flashing by, but trust me, a whole bunch of them actually also reinforce the message that it's pedestrians next to the bay and cyclists out next to the road. We just keep on going. Look, the path colour changes again to reinforce the difference between the two. It's a little bit annoying that they don't stick to like the Austroads convention, where the cycle path is red asphalt and the pedestrian path is black or grey asphalt, but what the heck. And you might have noticed so far that all the pedestrians we've passed have been walking in the pedestrian lane. But that's quite normal, and you'll see that all the way around here, that it's pretty rare that they stray outside the lane to block cyclists from getting past. Now, yes, it does happen when it's really busy and you got 1,000 people doing this. They do spill over a bit, and joggers in particular have trouble getting past people that are walking in pairs and taking up the entire path. And you do get family groups coming around here that want to walk 4 or 5 abreast and block everybody, and everyone gets upset at them. But so far, as you can see, all the pedestrians are just walking in the pedestrian path, which hopefully you can see is pretty clearly marked as a pedestrian path. And I'm sticking to the cycle path, and you might have noticed a couple of cyclists as we passed each other, crossing the line there. Okay, they do meander out of the path from time to time, but they don't spend their entire time going around here blocking the path for pedestrians. And that was the complaint. There's a small percentage of people, and we're talking somewhere between 1 and 5%, who either don't pay attention to where they're going or they don't care, and and they just walk wherever they want. So here's that sign for you. Pretty clearly, this is a cycle route, and pedestrians only and cyclists only. Now, that's about to change. This bridge was expanded a couple of years ago, and it was a different authority that did it, and for some reason, instead of doing separate bike and pedestrian paths, they decided to make it shared in each direction. Okay, well, that's fair enough. And as you can see on the path, there's plenty of symbology along here to say cyclists and pedestrians on this side and cyclists and pedestrians on the other side. I mean, unless you're absolutely not paying attention, it should be fairly clear what's going on here. And you don't want to be riding out there on the Iron Cove Bridge. But when we get to the end of the bridge, what happens? Well, guess what? We're about to switch back to separates cycle and pedestrian paths with a nice white line down the middle, and it's freshly painted there to make it nice and clear. Are people still doubting that there's this cycle path around here and it's separated from the pedestrian path? And as I came down there, there was a whole bunch of school kids there, and there were some kids yelling at their mates to get out of the cycle path because they were walking in the cycle path. I mean, even school kids can understand this. So we'll go up the hill here, and look, it is about to change again because we're on a road section here. And it's shared again, and we actually share this with cars, although that's probably not going to last for too much longer. There is a master plan that's out for comment at the moment, and they're planning on get rid of all the parking down here and stopping cars from coming down. So you can only get around here by walking, running, scooting, or cycling. And look over there on the right, pedestrian symbol. Why is that? Because as we come up here, bicycle symbols. Now this is more the off-road standard, where the cycle path is red concrete, I think, rather than red asphalt. What the hell? You can see it's clearly separated from the pedestrian path. It's a different colour, symbology, etc. And look, pedestrians and cyclists kept apart. But here we're back to the shared section because it's narrow and it's got to get around the rowing club here. Okay, so be it. It's not the end of the world. And what happens here? Look at that on the right. What do you think that is? Yep, it's a cycle path, and it's pink. And it's completely different to the pedestrian path, although those two ladies obviously couldn't work that out. They must have been some of the people making comments on the video going, oh, it's not a cycle path. Gee, really? How many of those bicycle symbols do you think we've gone over so far? I mean, I stopped taking screenshots at 50, and that was back at the Iron Cove Bridge. So there's maybe, I don't know, 80 to 100 of them around the Iron Cove, around the whole Bay Run. If you haven't seen them by now, I mean, what are you doing? Just looking at your phone, or doing a TikTok as you go? Can you do that for 7 kilometres without paying any attention whatsoever to your surroundings, and paying no attention to what all the other people around you are doing? I mean, you'd be kind of looking around going, gee, why are there so many cyclists in this lane and all the pedestrians walking over in that lane? You'd have to be a bit slow, I think. Anyway, we're coming back to where it splits again, and as you can see, cyclists down here on this bit and pedestrians up there on the raised part. And this was an old road bridge which they closed some years ago and turned it into a cycle path and a pedestrian path. But it goes into a shared section down here as we go around this UTS rowing club, and again, that's because it's very narrow, and they just couldn't make 2 separate paths. Although construction is going to be underway shortly to actually fix that and turn this into a separated bike path and a separated pedestrian path. Now this is a new section here. It's only a year or two old. And what do we have? Pedestrians next to the bay, cyclists out here, and we've got shrubbery down the middle of the 2 paths to show that it's completely separate. That was just me stopping to take a photo of yet another sign, and there's another sign up the pole there to say it's separate. So you've got symbols stenciled on the ground, and you've got stencils up poles, and you've got people walking over there on the right, and you've got cyclists over here next to the road cycling. Yeah, is it clear yet? Is it clear? I don't know. I mean, there's all these people who've obviously never been here, don't live here, trying to tell residents, no, it's not a cycle path, and what are you complaining about? You should be cycling on the road. And it's like, if you got no idea, why don't you just bugger off somewhere else on the internet and make a fool out of yourself somewhere else?